Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to talk to you guys about a pretty big topic of conversation I've seen down in the comment section of the last few videos, which is a lot of you guys think that Boruto's manga is about to throw us a swerve by having Code get eaten by a Ten Tails. At first, I saw only a few of you guys bringing this up as a possibility, but after the last chapter laid it on thick that this might be a possibility, I wanted to bring it to the greater community and see what you guys think about the topic. So, in the last few chapters, we've had Boruto telling us that the Ten Tails that we see is different in a major way, and that Code himself messed up by giving those Ten Tails claw grimes his chakra, saying he didn't know the depths of the true horror that he was about to unleash on the world itself. Now, we saw a glimpse of what Boruto was talking about. One of the claw grimes not only had a Rinnegan, but it also had the ability to speak. Some of the claw grimes showed emotions, showing that they're capable of anger, showing that they're potentially capable of fear, and that they're capable of independent thought. In the last chapter, we saw Sarada lay out more building blocks for us when she and the Chunin at the scene came to the conclusion that the claw grimes had gone from eating only Otsutsuki to trying to eat every human they can eat until they find an Otsutsuki, and that the humans eaten by the claw grimes are still alive despite being turned into a tree. It's why you have to look at that scene where one of the claw grimes calls Kawaki an Otsutsuki and you have to raise an eyebrow. At the end of the chapter, we see the Ten Tails main body and it looks drastically different than before. When we first saw it, when Sasuke discovered it in that dimension that Ishiki kept the Ten Tails in, the Jubi, it was chubby. But this Ten Tails looks like it's been on the Ten Tails Weight Watchers diet. It's noticeably smaller and it's thinner than before, and it appears to be in pain in the process. Given that the line in the story is that the Ten Tails will continue to consume anything around it until it can eat an Otsutsuki, it's not impossible for Code to be eaten as well. Boruto hit Code with the Rasengan Uzuhiko Jutsu, and one of the things that we see from that jutsu is that at least Code unable to maintain his equilibrium. He's all woozy like he took a pill-coated pudding pop from Bill Cosby, so it's not crazy to think that Code might lose his balance and fall into that pit where the Ten Tails is located. However, let's assume that this can happen. Is it necessarily the best route to go with Code's character? I don't think any of us are questioning if Code is going to die at some point. I think we all can agree it feels like it's a near certainty that Code's story ends in death and disappointment, barring some redemption of the character. However, with as many L's as Code has taken in the series, if he's going to be killed off and written out of the story, how he's taken out of the story is going to be extremely important, even with him being given a lackluster set of L's in the eyes of a lot of fans, for right or for wrong, but that's another video of another day, going over if he's been a bad villain or not. The ending of his character is going to be very important, because if it's done right from a narrative perspective, it can either elevate his character or it can lower his character. If the foreshadowing is too subtle for most fans to pick up on, like the foreshadowing that Code, even without his limiters, was going to be weaker than someone like Damon, you'll get outrage from people who scream foul that Damon mollywopped Code and left him feeling more embarrassed than Will Smith does every time his wife opens up her mouth to start speaking about Tupac. I do think if Code is eaten by the Ten Tails, the narrative has spoon-fed us enough regarding this Ten Tails and the claw grinds being changed by Code in a way that will backfire on him. He's no different than someone like Madara or even Jigen, the Otsutsuki vessel who Code idolized, or Ishiki, the Otsutsuki who Code worshipped like a god. Madara thought to himself that he was superior to Zetsu. He objectified him. He didn't take him seriously, which led to Madara getting stabbed in the back and betrayed by Zetsu, used as a method to ultimately revive Kaguya. Jigen didn't take Amato seriously, viewed him as someone who was under his control, not realizing Amato was scheming the entire time to have him killed by Kashin Koji. Ishiki viewed Kaguya as someone who was subservient to him because she was his inferior, because he was the superior of the two. She was the lower ranked between them. She was to get fed to the Ten Tails and produce a chakra fruit, but he never considered a possibility where she would betray him, which led to Kaguya attacking him when his guard was lowered and forcing him to physically put himself inside a Jigen in order to survive, which, major pause, I am well aware of how that sounds. Code making the same mistake, looking at the claw grimes as if it was a tool at its disposal. It's definitely been set up as far back as chapter 72 when he made them in the first place and called them more useful. He never viewed them as anything more than a means to end, where he could use them to capture Boruto or Kawaki and feed one of them to the Ten Tails. He become an Otsutsuki, he killed the other one, and then he killed everyone else on his list afterwards. Code making that type of mistake is very in character for him, as someone who we're told repeatedly isn't the smartest character. That boy Code is missing too many lefts to make a right turn, and if you let Ada, Amato, and Kawaki tell it, he's even dumber than that. It would also work narratively if we learned that Boruto saw a future via Momoshiki's foresight Shinjutsu where Code was betrayed by the Ten Tails or by the Claw Grimes. It would explain why Boruto told Code, destroy those Claw Grimes and the Ten Tails right now while you can. Boruto might not just have been talking about the danger that comes from the Ten Tails being used to harvest a chakra fruit. He might very well have been talking about Code losing the control he has over the Ten Tails itself and being betrayed by them. Using the phrase while you still can implies that there might come a time where Code isn't in control of the Ten Tails, which means he ultimately find himself in a situation where he's likely to be killed. Boruto being the son of Naruto, it's not too out of character for him to at least try to prevent something like that from happening to him. His own father found it in himself to forgive Obito, even after Obito was the reason he grew up an orphan. Boruto trying to show mercy to Code by saving him from that future, granted by potentially killing him himself, it wasn't that big of a stretch. Dying at the hands of someone like Boruto is going to be a lot less painful than being eaten by a Ten Tails, or at least I would tend to think so. However, if Code's story does theoretically end here, it does make you wonder what has become of the Ten Tails itself. That threat of Code using the Ten Tails to become a god is now eliminated. If he's killed right here and the Ten Tails killed off right after that, if there isn't some ramification that comes as a result of this, then it runs the risk of it being very anticlimactic. It would be like if the third Hokage just killed Orochimaru in the tuning exams with the Reaper Death God. Were there other things already shaping up in the background of the story, like the introduction of the Akatsuki? Absolutely, but to get rid of Orochimaru as the main threat only a year after he'd been introduced would potentially have been a waste. I do worry that if Chapter 4 reveals that Code is getting killed off, if that's going to have a negative impact on the story moving forward. To be fair, we've already seen Code without limiters was never going to be the major threat that he was originally hyped up to be. Long before Ada and Damon showed up in Konoha as allies, Shikamaru and Naruto had already made the assessment that since Code was now stronger than Jigen but weaker than Ishiki, he was a threat that they could manage against, despite the fact Naruto no longer had the Nine Tails. Likely because they'd already seen the extent of Code's claw mark jutsu when Code fought against the Karma Seal Kawaki, so they had enough intel to pregame a battle strategy to use against them should it actually come to it. And honestly, Shikamaru's confidence, it wasn't misplaced. Was Code strong? Absolutely. Anyone stronger than Jigen is for sure strong. Naruto and Sasuke fans will forever remember Boruto episode 204, and they'll get chills up their spine and they'll go through the 7 stages of grief when they watch the episode. If you say the name Jigen 3 times super fast, they're going to absolutely piss on themselves. However, Code, while he is stronger than Jigen, he does not have the same hacks that someone like Jigen has, where he had a dojutsu that could shrink any weapons or ninjutsu thrown at him, and he had a Karma Seal that could absorb any chakra-based ninjutsu hurled at him, and with chakra-based jutsu he couldn't would be shrunk down by his dojutsu, and he possessed the ability to summon chakra rods and other weapons faster than senjutsu sensory abilities could allow people to track it, and shrink himself down so small where only the Sharingan can actually keep up with the location due to the Sharingan having the ability to see chakras of color. It was the combination of hacks and strength that made Jigen so strong, which I explained in my Why Jigen 1 video that literally goes over every single jutsu and combination of jutsu that people swear up and down could have been effective against Jigen, which I recommend watching if you're still in disbelief or if you're curious as to why I say anyone who's saying but the writers or they were just nerfed, they're being disingenuous and they're getting high off of copium. I literally break down everything that you're arguing and point out how Jigen is a hard counter. A hard counter does not mean that someone's nerfed. It just means it's a bad matchup, which if you're curious about that video, you can watch it on the screen right now.